and I've met guys that, they like to say, well, I just don't have the players. I don't have the players to be good. Maybe not, but, is there something you can do to make your players at least a little bit better? And so that's where I've always come from, a place of wanting to do my best to make the players I have be the most successful they can be.
Welcome to the Jamodi Podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is Jamodi, just a matter of doing it.
Today we are joined by the head girls basketball coach at McNeil High School, Kenny Mann. Coach Mann has been coaching for over 25 years and has a career record of 476 wins and 295 losses. He spent his first 24 years coaching boys basketball at Bryson, Munster, and Salado high schools. The last 2 years, he's led the Lady Mavs to their first playoff appearance in 10 years. Coach Mann has been District Coach of the Year 6 times and was named TABC Coach of the Year in 2013. He's been involved with TABC the past 26 years as camp director, a member of the All-State Committee, and as regional coordinator. Before we hear from Coach, take a moment to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on social media at Jamodi Podcast.
What's up, Coach?
How's it going?
It is good, man. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. What's up with you this time of year? How are things going?
Man, just getting ready for the season. We're doing our all-season stuff right now. Getting a lot of good basketball in, even though we just have the period to work in. The girls are, I feel like we're a little bit ahead of the game this year with the girls we got returning. Of course, I was new last year, so we were way behind schedule last year. So comparatively speaking, we feel pretty good about where we're at right now.
So huge difference between year one and trying to establish system, culture, all these, and then now going into year two, you feel the difference, huh?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I got some good returners coming back. They're good leadership, and so they're excited about it, and it makes me excited. So it's going to be good. We got leagues starting tonight, so they're itching to get together and go play some other girls. So
yeah, it's nice sometimes not to go up against each other, especially if you've been doing that for about a month at this time.
Right.
Well, first of all, just thank you so much for giving up your time. I know you just finished the school day. You've got some things going tonight, but to talk hoops with me, I've known you, but it's more just known of you through TABC and all the amazing things that you've done there over the years. So first of all, thank you for all you've done for coaches, and then also for giving up your time today.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate it. I'd like to give a shout out, just to TABC and to that camp for all they did for me as well. The connections that I made through working at TABC camp and everything is priceless. Probably one of the best things I did in my career was, as a first year coach, I jumped in and decided I'd start trying to work that camp. And luckily enough, I never missed one camp since I started.
Wow. So, how many years now have you been doing that?
Over 25.
Wow. That's basically, and especially early on, I bet it felt like a clinic. You're working with the players, but you're learning just as much from the coaches that are showing up.
Oh, absolutely. Kind of a funny story. So, the first few years that I was working there, you got guys, like Coach Youngblood running the thing. And I'm sitting there as a young coach watching these guys thinking, oh my gosh, Stan Leach. I'm like, these guys have got to be some kind of awesome coach to be able to run this camp. About 15 years later, I'm running the camp and I'm sitting there kind of looking around and I'm thinking, you know what? They'll let any slap run this camp.
Maybe they weren't as special as I thought they were.
No, they were. They were fantastic.
But you probably had younger coaches too, sitting there looking at you, watching you do this, like, golly, how does he do this? He must be incredible.
So yeah, it's funny. It's all about perspective, I guess.
Yeah.
But the guys that followed me have done a fantastic job as well. So and the ladies, it's well run, and might as well give a plug while I'm on.
What's your favorite style of play to teach a program?
Right. And in general, of course, I love a fast-paced game. Defensively, I love to be full court press, either in a 1-2-1-1 or full court man. Back into a man pressure man defense. offensively, I like to get out and transition and try to score, if not off the break, our secondary break, into a 5-out motion. That's my favorite. Now that being said, the other question, which will come up,
Well,
I
it
guess
ties into it.
right. Am I going to always do that?
Yeah.
No, because you don't always have the players to do that. And I'm not so stubborn that I'm going to try to do it and lose doing that. I will tweak it, and I will go to a 2-post offense if I have to make sure that we're doing what's best for our players. But yeah, the 5-out motion, I stole that a long time ago, probably about 15 years ago. I think I got that from like a THSCA article. And,
Nice.
I was reading that thing. I was like, this is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Started doing it. And, I had teams really take off on it. I just love, the fact that, it's hard to scout because, the movements are not definite and defined. You got a choice when you pass the ball, what you're going to do. And so the defense has to react to your movement. You can't really scout and say, hey, when they make this pass, they're going here, they're going there. It keeps the defense on their toes a lot more. So I really, really love that when I can do it. I got the girls. I think we can do that some this year. We didn't do it much last year. We did more of tweaks of the Buna high-low stuff last year. And so, but if I had to pick, that motion would definitely be my favorite.
What are some of the concepts in your 5-out? We run a 5-out, but I would imagine like anything, there are some differences in it. So
Right.
What are some things that you're trying to achieve within a possession?
Well, mine's more of a kind of a read and react, and it's hard to kind of keep them from trying to go straight into dribble drive. It's not dribble drive. It's more of a, a read and react. You pass the ball, and then you got some options. You can either cut to the basket, you can screen away and roll to the basket, or you can ball screen and roll to the basket. And so when it's a lot of reading screens, when you got the ball, I want you to square up, try to read the screen, see what your players are doing before you just automatically catch the ball and start attacking the basket.
Right.
That being said, we always teach, if you have the ball and, your closeout is bad and you can attack the basket, by all means attack the basket. But it's more of a read and react type situation that we're trying to accomplish.
I would imagine there has to be some pretty good communication, not verbally, but non-verbally, between the player that catches the ball that might want to drive, but also sees that there's action happening there. So that probably has to take a lot of time to create that rhythm, right?
It does. And we talk, obviously, just basic stuff. Like if a player is running at you with a closed fist, they're wanting to set a screen for you. If they got an open hand, they're wanting the ball. And then we talk about, when we're coming off a screen away type situation. If you're coming off that screen and you're rolling to the basket because your defender's chasing you, you're going to throw in your inside hand to the basket because that's where you want the ball. If your defender goes under the screen, you're going to throw your outside hand and pop to catch the ball there. So we're trying to make that defender wrong whichever way they go. And then obviously, we're using our hand signals to give the guy with the ball where to throw the ball.
Yeah, that idea of being unscoutable, I really like that. They may know that we're running a 5-out motion or continuity, but because you aren't over there on the sideline joysticking them, the defense is basically learning what we're doing on the fly. And I just have to choose, just like what Michael Jordan says, whatever the defense chooses, they're wrong.
Yes.
And so offensively, you just have to be patient enough, smart enough, aggressive enough just to wait for that mistake.
Right. And then, teams will start trying to just switch all screens, which then in that situation, if they make the wrong switch, then we immediately dive, our big man to the basket and post up a little guy. If they're going to make that switch, we're going to automatically post that guy up. So that doesn't really work for them either if they start trying to switch all the screens.
Yeah. We run a different, like I said, a different type of 5-out, but we had a 6'5" guard a few years ago, Tyler Lumblade. He's at TCU now. And he just, because of his ball handling and shooting, sometimes he'd have a smaller guy and I would just call Tyler in the hole. It was one of the few things that from the sideline, because I feel like more of the time I'm just getting to watch them play jazz out there instead of me conducting it all. But I would say Tyler in the hole. And if wherever he was, the action would stop and he just sprint in, and I'd be amazed. Now, especially if you have shooters around the floor that are taking their defenders out with them, amazed at how we could steal a bucket or two, and how many guards are not good at post defense. So you can get these, I don't care if they're big or small, but guards suffering in there.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you this. So it's interesting history. I mean, over 400 wins in your career. So congratulations on that. Like, that's incredible. I'm so far away from that. It doesn't even seem possible.
That's also has to do with me being old.
You've just done it long enough. No, you've done some things right for sure. Question though, because you've been on the boys' side and then now on the girls' side, your favorite style of play to teach, is there a difference between how you would do that with boys, or do you feel like the girls can do similar actions, or do you have to tweak it a little bit?
I'll tell you, I got, advice from a lot of people when I was making the change, and I got completely different advice from people I respect equally. Some said, I don't know if you can run a motion with girls. They like specific plays and this and that. And then I had other people say, coach them like you coach your boys. And so I went in and coached them like I coached my boys. And at least the group I have can do everything, that the guys could do, sometimes even better, because they're a little bit more patient sometimes and make, smarter decisions. We're obviously not throwing any oops for dunks or anything like that. But, I think they can do anything that boys can do. And I really didn't tweak much at all.
How much have you enjoyed the transition over? Because I've always heard, I coached B team A and B volleyball at McKinney High School when I was with Wes Watson there. So that's my experience really working with girls. I enjoyed it. I thought they worked hard. They wanted to please, but what's your experience been?
The same, and, maybe it may have been different with a different team. It's hard to say, but I know that with the team that I got here at McNeil, it's been fantastic. Like, it was the best decision I've ever made in my life.
Awesome.
And, nothing against, because I was at Salado for 15 years and loved every single boys team that I coached there. But that last year, just the competitiveness of the girls and their willingness to, do whatever it took to win, and just watching them, go from a team that basically was underrated and underappreciated into a district championship team and a playoff winning team. That was about the most fun I've ever had coaching.
Yeah. You said something a second ago that coaches say, coach them like they're boys. And I want to maybe reframe it. Like, to me, it seems if you coached your boys teams well, then you can coach them like that. You coach them. If guys are coaching their boys teams poorly, and maybe in a way that this today doesn't really empower them, they're playing out of fear.
Yeah.
That won't work with girls either. So you're a good coach. So the way that you coach your boys, it'll work with girls for sure.
Yeah. Sometimes I think girls are sometimes tougher than boys. Now, and not everyone will agree with that, but I think they
explain why. Yeah.
I'll tell a funny story, and I don't know if you could share this or not. It's up to you, but sometimes parents can be hard, and sometimes boys can be sensitive when, they shouldn't be sensitive. Well, I got here to McNeil, and the girls said they wanted to be coached hard. And I was like, all right, you're going to get what you asked for.
Yeah.
We play Austin High, the first game of the season, and they're ranked fourth or fifth at the time. And it's neck and neck. We go down to the wire with them. They're pressing us at the end. And I am coaching them hard. Like, I can be pretty crazy sometimes on the sideline. And so I'm just getting after them, and we ended up losing, but it was a great game. So we have our talk in the locker room, and then we had to drive home. And I always reflect on the bus on the way home, what happened in the game. And then we stop when we get back home and have another conversation. So I stopped the bus, and the girls are sitting there, and I get up, and I was like, all right, y'all asked me to coach you hard. Are y'all okay? And they were like, yes, this is what we needed. This is exactly what we needed. And I was like, all right, well, y'all need to do me a favor. Go home and tell your parents that. Tell your parents what you just told me. And they all started laughing. I was like, yeah, it's funny, but for real, for real.
Because
So,
I've always thought that one of the major differences between like select programs, AAU programs seem to get really good buy-in from their parents. One, they're paying. And so I wonder how much truth they hear, from people that they're paying. But there are some great select coaches out there. But another reason why there's great buy-in is they're there. They're at practice. They hear and they see all of the groundwork that's being laid by the coaches. For us, they just base everything off of what the players say on the way home and then what they see those 32 minutes once or twice a week. And I would love for parents to come to practice more. And like you said, though, we do need to ask our players to help bridge that gap of understanding of what the parents are seeing there and a little bit of the why.
Yeah. And I've mentioned that before as well, about, the parents only see me, game time where I'm the most intense and I'm the most into it. And, they don't get to see in the locker room, joking around with the kids in the hallways and, the practice times of, coaching them up. And so, yeah, you're exactly right. They don't get to see all of that. I will say though, the McNeil parents, they bought in so well last year and were so supportive last year. It was really awesome.
Coaches, the Jamodi podcast is powered by Ballology. What's your BSA score? The Ballology Skills Assessment is the only verified skills metric endorsed by the NAIA, NJCAA, and a growing number of NCAA coaches to discover and develop the best talent for your team. This 4-minute, 40-shot test can be taken free today on the Ballology mobile app. Elevate your game.
I've tried to bridge the gap a little bit on my own with the way that I communicate with parents. Maybe the frequency. I think even though you're going to get, 20, 30, 40% of them that don't really care, don't really read through, especially at my school, at Faith, I feel like the more I communicate, the less gaps or mistakes happen. But another way that I've tried to bring them into the gym without them being there is through social media.
Yes.
Posting things, celebrating players, highlights, even a practice and some drills and things like that. So the parents can see them and go, oh, wow, there's a lot of stuff happening there. What are some ways that you use social media to enhance your program?
That's a great question. I mean, and once again, I'm an old guy. So, old school guys are not used to having to do all the social media and everything. That's just kind of it's a new man's game a little bit. We didn't have to do that when we first started coaching. But you're right. It's so important now. And, one of the best things maybe I took leaving Salado was that, one of the things that they would have liked to have seen more of was more social media stuff out of me. So I came over last year and, went full force into social media. I took over our Twitter page. I took over our Facebook page, and I'm just tweeting and putting stuff on Facebook all the time about our successes, making sure they know when the games are. Anytime a girl does something well, scores a lot of points, we put her picture up there and put what she did, trying to, let the parents know that we care about the girls, and then also let them know, we're trying to get that out there for them. If they want to play at the next level, we're trying to celebrate them as much as possible. We also have a web page that we do. The way I, correspond with the parents most is the Sports U app, and not to advertise for them or whatnot, but it has been fantastic for me.
Really?
Yes, it's a really good app. And I was introduced to that by Coach Kanarik at Salado. She was using it when I was there, and she was talking about it a lot. And so I jumped in and tried it, and it's really been good for communication.
I'm not familiar with that. We use Team App quite a bit.
Okay.
I feel like the Team App, Team Snap, you hear about those a lot, but I'll have to check out yours because I'm always looking for a way that's more user friendly. And Team App's fine, but there are some buttons and avenues through there that to me can be a little complicated. So, but I have checked out, just so you know, I have checked out not just your personal social media, Twitter, but also your teams. Yeah. And I just want to celebrate you if you're the one in charge of that and putting up stuff, and the fact that you retweet it too. from your personal one. Like, I
Right.
just think we need to be connected to that, and it goes hand in hand. So I think you're doing an amazing job with it.
Well, I appreciate that. I've really focused on trying to get good at it and do that. We're always trying to improve in some aspect. And that was one where, I agreed that I needed to get better at, and it was good for my team and good for my girls. So definitely worked on getting better at it. So I appreciate that.
And not all of us have the budget or the staff. Like Duncanville has a social media coordinator, and
That'd be nice.
that person does an amazing job. Like, I had Coach PV on, and he talked about them wanting to have a college-like feel to what they're doing. Their social media is on point with that. But for those of us that it's just us, we're a
Yeah.
smaller school. It's just us. I hate to say it, but being uncomfortable with doing it or not wanting to do it just doesn't fly anymore.
No.
I've had to train myself in Photoshop. I ask our girls coach at the school, Hannah St. Pierre, is amazing with graphics. She sends me what in Photoshop it's called PSDs. I can't create anything, but I can take what she does and I can manipulate some colors, put in a photo, but there is a way for us to do it. And then just one more tip for whoever is listening to this, because I really do value this piece of what we do in high school, is have a plan. During the season, I have a plan for every day besides games and stuff like that, a different type of graphic that lets maybe it's a get to know your player, why they play basketball. Like, just put that
Awesome.
out there, why they play
Yeah.
basketball and why they love your program. And or a favorite verse of the day, since we're a private school, or the
Right.
player. So it's like we get to shape the narrative a little bit of really what our program's about and let people see it.
Yeah. I'm going to steal that. Appreciate you.
Well, yeah, just because for me, one thing I've learned with social media is, in order for it to be effective, it has to be consistent.
Right.
So posting randomly doesn't work.
Right.
And then two, it's free. It's just our time.
Yeah.
So like, if you and I can give that 20 to 30 minutes a day, once you get in a rhythm, just like anything else, I don't know if our players rarely thank us in the moment, but I guarantee that they are watching that and
Yeah.
appreciating it and waiting for theirs. So I think it's good for us to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Going
I got to
back-
give a shout out.
Go
Shout
ahead.
out real quick to my booster club president from last year, Lorena Stainthorpe. All the really cool graphics and stuff that we had. She's the one that did all that. She would do that for me, and then I would, post it and do all that. So I don't want to take credit for all of it, because I'm not super talented with that. I was just willing to, ask her to do it, get it
Yeah.
put it there and make it happen.
Well, I can't remember what coach had said. I think maybe Rick Pitino said, you got to enlist others in your vision.
Yeah.
Like, as a player, have your friends rebound for you. And as a coach, some of the things that we might not feel talented in, guarantee it. Like, there's a parent, there's a student at your school that loves to video, loves to do things, and we can bring them in. Kind of going back to our first question about style of play, and you kind of alluded to it a little bit with can't always do it. It changes from year to year. It does depend on players. And I think that's the sweet spot, is you have a style of play that you like, you're comfortable with, but you're able to tweak and mold to benefit your players the most. So obviously you are player-based over style-based, but how has that worked for you in your coaching career?
Well, I think it's worked, really well for me. I'm not, like I said, I'm not stubborn. I'm not going to do one thing just to do it. When I was at Munster, I didn't feel like we had, the guys to really run a fast-paced offense. I didn't feel like we were, had the guys to run man defense. So I ran a 1-3-1 my whole time in Munster. And even my first few years when I got to Salado, I was running a 1-3-1, running the middle guy to the corners type thing. And kind of, some of my small school guys were all like, hey, man, he's the 1-3-1 guy. He's yeah. And then I felt really good about myself running the 1-3-1.
Yeah, I'm that guy.
And then I got to Salado and we got bumped up, to 3A. So we were little guys and, we got thrown up with Liberty Hill and Lampasas, who had just come down from 4A, and man, they were abusive to that 1-3-1. And I was like, okay, I can't keep doing this against them, because he's got sets. Barry Bourne's got sets. He's going to get you. And so, I from that point on, refocused, and we were man defense predominantly at Salado, and that ended up working out really well for us. We won a lot of games doing our man defense, and so I was, not stubborn there. Stuck with I ran the Buna quite a bit in Salado too. Other than a few years, I had some really great guards, and we ran the motion that I love to run. But I ended up having, a couple of years where some really big dudes that do not need the ball in space, but they're really hard to stop around the basket, So I'm like, we got to run Buna. I want these guys on the floor. They're great post defenders. They can score around the basket, but they don't need to be trying to catch the ball and dribble and shoot outside the 3-point line. So we went to basically just that old school Buna, high pick and low, pick and roll stuff, and won a lot of games doing that. Got complained on a few times that I was running old school offense that, wasn't great, but we're scoring 65 points a game running it. I'm like, well, what do y'all want? I feel like it's working pretty good.
What does that even mean? Old school offense. I mean, unless you're going four corners from the beginning of the game and holding it. But if you're putting your players in a position to be successful and it's working, what does that mean?
I don't know. They didn't like it. Some of them didn't like it. And I've tweaked that. I ran that with, and I actually tweaked it before I got here to McNeil, because I had some like tall guys that could shoot, but they were also good in the post. And so we could run our mismatches off the pick and roll, posting somebody up, but we could also run a pick and pop and get them 3-point shots.
Hard to go.
We'd come off that first pick and roll. It wasn't a pick and roll. We'd pick and pop the first one. And then if we came back the other direction, it was a pick and roll. And so it gave my guys, who I really wanted them to be posts, but they really wanted to be guards, best of both worlds. Say, look, dude, you get to shoot threes when we do the pick and pop. When we pick and roll, you get your butt down there and post up. And so it ended up kind of making them happy, because they got to, do their outside stuff, and it made me happy because we got to get some easy baskets, around the basket.
You said something really brilliant at the beginning of your answer. You weren't stubborn. And I would think, where does stubbornness as a coach come from? Well, maybe insecurity, maybe insecure, not wanting to learn something new or change.
Right.
But unfortunately, I believe and this is from my experience personal, that it's because it's about me at that point. Like you said, you're the 1-3-1 guy. You start to get recognized for that. And you're like, at Faith, we hit a lot. We shoot a lot of threes, and we make a lot of threes. And man, without even realizing it, that me monster will rise up and like, yeah, that's what we do. So guys, next season, no matter what, we're pulling it. I don't care. We're shooting now. So what I think, by not being stubborn, it's okay to have a style of play that you believe in, that you feel like that you enjoy teaching, but it does ultimately have to lead to team and individual success for your players. And if it doesn't, it's not about you. It's not about me. It's about them and their experience and figuring out a way. So how did you become that type of coach that can make that change, instead of someone like me 5-6 years ago that really hurt his players trying to fit them into a style that didn't fit?
Right. It just basically boils down to hating to lose. I hate to lose more than I hate anything in life. And I hate to lose a lot more than I like to win. And so, if what I'm doing is we're not winning, I'm really good at self-reflect. I'm not, and I've met guys that, they like to say, well, I just don't have the players. I don't have the players to be good. Maybe not, but, is there something you can do to make your players at least a little bit better? And so that's where I've always come from, a place of wanting to do my best to make the players I have be the most successful they can be. And so, I'm going to try anything I can do. I'm not going to lie to you. Last year, at one point, I felt like we were getting a little bit stagnant. We were going to go into a few games where I felt like our guard play, we're playing teams that are over pursuing us. They're really getting in our business. And Burnett runs, Coach Kaiser at Burnett runs a chin offense. And, I was remembering that stuff. I'm like, man, they get us some backdoor cuts and stuff. I called him up mid-season and I'm like, hey, man, send me some of our video from when we played at Salado. I need to look at that chin stuff. And he talked to me, talked me through it, showed me some stuff, and we ran it and won a couple of games just because we mid-season decided to go into this chin stuff and run it against teams that I thought would not be able to defend it well. And it actually helped us win the Westlake game because we go in and play Westlake and they run chin. And we didn't run it against them, but we defended the crap out of it because we defended it in practice, the last 2 weeks. And, some people might say you're crazy, to go away from what you've been practicing all year mid-district, but, it worked out. And I feel like that's what my girls needed, a spark, and they needed something different. And they were smart enough to pick it up. It's not super complex. So.
Well, maybe sometimes you have to be bold.
Right.
Like sometimes it takes courage to do what we're doing, what we're asking our players to do. But again, what a great reminder for coaches that even in mid-season to zoom out a little bit and yes, that we're in this game, we're seeing, but I really like an action that they're running. Or you look at your assistant coach. Anytime you do this, you're like, golly, that's hard to guard. And after the game, after the season, look back and say, is that something? I feel like college coaches are really good at that. They're good at seeing things that other teams do. And maybe because they have, film, they have all the assistants to break things down, but they can quickly steal something and adopt it. Where if I have tunnel vision all season long, man, we are exactly the same when we finish the year than when we started. So that's a great reminder.
Coaches, the Jamodi podcast is powered by Shoot 360. The future of basketball has arrived in Dallas-Fort Worth. Shoot 360 combines the latest sports technology with the fundamentals of basketball skill development. The result is a one-of-a-kind video game-like basketball program designed to improve your shooting, dribbling, and passing. Visit shoot360dfw.com to learn more and register for your free 1-hour workout evaluation. Shoot 360, the future of basketball is here.
How does skill development work into daily practice, especially when you're working 5 out, where players around the perimeter all need to not handle it and shoot it the same, but they have to be catch and look comfortable with it out there?
Right. Well, I mean, it's an everyday thing for us, obviously. Fundamentals is we do have to practice as fundamentals every day. We start even before practice with fundamental shooting. We call it pre-practice. It's kind of also our time to take roll and everything. So my girls have to be at a designated basket at a certain time when the clock starts, and they get about 10 minutes to go through the shooting regiment that we have. And it's, we start near the basket and kind of work our way out, with perfect shooting, one-handed shooting, just all fundamental shooting. And while they're doing that, we're taking roll, and I'm kind of going around, checking their temperature. Hey, hey, how's everything going today?
Nice.
Any boyfriend problems today? Everybody's happy. Everything's good. So it gives me a time to kind of go around and do that. And also to see, some shooting form issues and talk about that stuff. So we do that every day, form shooting. After that, when the clock goes off, they know to be on the baseline, and we're going to do some form of dribbling every day. And we mix it up. I do 1 ball and then I do 2 ball dribbling every day. And then on Wednesdays, we have we call them zigzag Wednesdays. It's really our focus on defense, but we do our zigzag dribbling as well.
2 sides to that drill.
Right. Absolutely. And so, we do that every day. Kind of a funny thing I do, and I haven't seen too many people do it, but our warm up with our ball handling is kind of almost like old school football stuff. We'll do our high knees, tail kickers, lunges. We're doing all that stuff, but we're doing it while we dribble. And we do 1 ball, 2 ball, doing all that stuff. And then once they've gotten the warm up, then we start, going up and down the floor fast, 1 ball and 2 ball dribbling, doing different dribble moves and everything like that.
I like the creativity with the ball handling. And So I'll just so you know, I love doing things, especially in individual skill work that's outside the box.
Yeah.
So, 1 ball, 2 ball, tennis ball, weighted med ball, foam rolls. We have a Micah Lancaster's Impossible dribble mats that we use. So all of those things, but automatic, like I don't know how many guys will listen to this, but I probably just lost half of them, because the moment for some coaches, when you say you're bringing in things that are what I call accountability tools, cones, all that stuff, you bring those in, people are like, nope, it's not in the game. Don't do it. It's a waste of time. Coach, you mentioned 2 ball.
Yeah.
That I mean, you don't play with 2. So like, that's accountability. What are your thoughts on the maybe more the creative side to skill work and stretching them that way?
Of course, going back to the 2 ball, I mean, to me, it's an obvious. I don't know why everybody would not do 2 ball dribbling, because you got so many kids today that are so one-handed.
Yep.
And, my girls, when I came in last year, a lot of them were severely one-handed. And if you're doing 2 ball drills, they don't have any choice but to be dribbling with their offhand. And so, I want to make sure that and put them in that situation as much as possible, where they're having to use that offhand as much as possible. A kind of a cool little drill I do is use the volleyball court. So we'll get in line, and how you can basically, we'll dribble and then lateral dribble, then lateral dribble, then dribble, then lateral dribble. So they're having to use the lines of the volleyball line, and they're, you've got them moving side to side, dribbling, forwards, dribbling, hit the floor at the same time, alternate dribbles, zigzags, in and outs. They're having to do a whole lot of dribbling moves while they're working the volleyball lines. And so, that's something that I haven't seen a lot of people do. I'm sure other people do it, but it works out pretty well for us, and it gets them moving.
The great thing about that and anything like with 2 balls is it's not even the guide hand work or the weak hand work is great. And yeah, you want players at any varsity level need to be able to attack both directions. And so we have to help them with that. But there's way more to it going on, because in games, think of all the things that we have to ask them to do at one time. Right. Guard their man, know what we're in, time, score, momentum. What is the coach saying? In your case, my boyfriend's over there. Who's he talking to? Right? Like, they have so many things that they're focused on that we can't just have them in practice only having to worry about one thing. Absolutely. 2 ball, man, there's a lot going on there. And I feel the same way about some of the things that we do that some coaches might say, that's a waste of time.
I like it. I don't know. There's very little I think that's a waste of time. If you've got them
Coach.
Thinking and moving and passing, probably not a whole lot of wasted time going there. The only time I think there's a lot of wasted time when you got a lot of people standing around watching just a few people work. Yep. And so we try to do that as little as possible. So all of my girls have a ball assigned to them that they keep in their locker, and they come out with their ball, and I want them all with their ball in their hand almost all practice long, until we're obviously just having to do our, offensive defense breakdown stuff. Anytime in conditioning, you name it. If they, we do our shooting games and stuff like that, and the losers have to run, they automatically go and grab their ball, because they know that they're going to have to dribble while they do their stuff. So we try to keep a ball in their hand as much as possible.
I think that's a sign of just excellent gym management when you walk in and you see, depending on the focus of that moment in practice, but rarely do you have them all, standing, only 1 or 2 working. And that's one thing that getting to work for PGC really helped me out, because at a PGC session as a director, it's me and 130 athletes, maybe 5 other, basket instructors. And we have to teach the whole, bring them in close, teach the whole, send it back out to go. And so, but you go to practices and you see 2 guys, line of 12 and 6 baskets, but it's kind of, I would imagine the way you feel is like, this is what you do for the last 30 years of your life. You've been trying to figure out how to become the best at what you're doing. And I think that's a product of it. Got to ask you this, because of working TABC camps so many years, do you guys do shooting games there?
Oh yeah. All
right.
Of course,
I love.
money
Go ahead.
basket's the one. Yeah, that's the one everybody loves.
Okay, so I love learning new shooting games, and my players know that weekly, on top of the probably 10 that we normally roll through, there's going to be some new ones. Like we just did Kobe shooting the other day, a new one, and then I always ask them, "Did you like that?" And if they don't, we don't do it again.
Right.
And but if they like it, then we'll add it to the list. So tell me your favorite shooting game from TBC camp.
It's probably money basket, because the kids are moving, they're having a ball, and that's, you have to shoot your way around to the money basket. And then once you get to the money basket, you shoot to stay at the money basket. And so, you can put them in any spot, like, of course, I do it a lot with my camps as well. You got little bitty kids and you're going to put them on the block, let them shoot on the block. And then the older kids, you can move them out to the elbow. You can move them out to the 3-point line. You can put them in the corners. You can move them anywhere, and you can, make the numbers as small as you want to make it. You get 3 or 4 kids on a team. They're going to get off a lot of shots playing it, and they're moving. They're having to run and go rebound after their shot because they're trying to get it back to the next person to shoot really quick. So I think it's good for, following your shot, and, they're not just throwing it up there because they didn't do them any good if they don't make their shot. And so I think money basket's probably one of my favorites.
Okay, so if you could, 6 baskets here at Faith, let's just say 30 athletes, 30 players. How do you organize it? What's the time? Ultimately, how do you win?
Like, well, depending on your time, like how much time you want to put into it. You put time limit on the clock. You divide them up evenly into, you said how many?
6 baskets.
6 baskets.
30 kids.
So, I'm not a very good mathematician, but 12, preferably like 12 teams.
Okay.
Because you want everybody.
So you're going 2, like with my group, I do 2 or 3 in a group. So you have 2 groups at a basket.
Yeah. You want at least 2 teams on a basket.
Yep.
Maybe, if you want your number smaller per team, have an extra team that just kind of sits and waits for a second.
Okay.
Because the games go fairly fast. You have the first team to make 4. And then, so they're rotating really quickly. And
so you basically, you have 6 individual games going on.
Right.
It's the 4. The winner goes, I'm assuming, to the right.
Yes.
Loser goes to the left, or
Well,
loser stays?
no.
How does it work?
Like, other than the money basket. So you
Okay.
put one of your 6 baskets as the money basket.
Yeah.
If you win at that basket, you stay at that basket. The loser has to rotate to the right. Now, once they rotate to the other basket, you've got to win to rotate your way back to the money basket. So everybody keeps rotating right. It's just that
Losers will always stay except for at the money basket.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah. And then
I
you
like
put as much time as you want to at that. So it's fun.
See, I really feel good about our individual shooting games. I don't have great team shooting games, especially ones that are stationary like that. A lot of up and down team shooting games, but on game days, this is just personal preference, and maybe because of style of play and the simplicity of what we do. We don't do a walkthrough or anything like that. We train. So it's like the Steph Curry idea. He goes out, he does 2 ball, does all his stuff. On game days, we're going to get better. And so, but I do like to get maybe a few more shots up outside of our individual games. That's one that, and I also like the gym to be fun and hyped. So I'm going to steal that, Coach. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a fun one. We play around the world as well as one. We do more of our games, I guess, on Saturdays. Once the season starts, we do our shooting games. Saturday's kind of designated for weights and shooting games and having fun and watching film. So we'll do a lot of our shooting games on Saturday. And one we do is a partner around the world, or some people call it the 3-point shooting game because they spend most of their time shooting threes. But, you've played it before. You start on the block, and both of you have to make it from the block, and you both have to make it from the corner, wing, top of the key, wing, corner, other block, and then work your way back while the other team is doing the same thing. And so it's another one where you're having to follow your shot. You're having to.
Can they chance it?
Catch and shoot. It's not like a stationary one. And
so like, okay.
Shooting,
yeah.
And you can do it, several ways. So maybe you got your partner is shooting first, and they're going to have to make it from the block and then make it from the corner. And so the other partner's rebounding for them until they hit both of those shots. And then they switch, and then the other partner shoots. Then
And
they got to
just
rotate to the next 2 spots.
first
And
to
so
get it done.
Right. It's there's no stop and, hey, hold on, I'm going to shoot this shot again. It's both teams are going and they're trying to get around and back before the other team gets around and back. So
I
it's
like
another
that.
one that keeps them moving pretty good
Yeah.
and shooting fairly quickly.
Well, both of those games that you just, and I think a golden nugget that I took away from it, both those games, the shots that they're taking will feel similar to what it's like in a game. There's a consequence for missing. There's a anxiousness that you have before you catch it. There's adrenaline as it goes up through. And as coaches, we need to put them in positions more feeling like that in practice, or else if they're always cool, calm, and outside of scrimmage, cool and calm when they shoot, that's not practicing I hate the game shot. Like, it's like Bobby Knight hating a game face. He's like, what does that even mean? Put on your game face. But
You should always be wearing your game face.
that's right. Yeah. But game shots, I mean, there's time to get your rhythm and flow, but majority of the time needs to have that feeling. And those games produce that.
Yeah. And I do a one-on-one shooting drill, and I try to make everything a competition. And so you get a partner, and you and your partner choose a spot on the floor, and you've got to be the first to make 5. But your partner is throwing it at you and closing out on you. So we're working out closeouts as well. So I'm going to throw it to you, and I'm going to be ball, 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 and you've got to shoot it with me closing out and hollering at you. And then we switch, and then I do it. And so, instead of them shooting on air, which a lot of, drills do, they practice shooting with somebody closing on at them. And then it also makes them work a little bit on their closeouts.
Yep.
And so I'll spend more time chewing people out for not closing out well in that drill than I do for their shooting.
Well, the great thing there is the reason why closeouts work on most shooters is because what you said, they shoot on air, having those hands up, it's just something else within your vision. But if you can train your shooters to, one, be prepared quick enough with their feet and their hands, but then also when leather touches their fingertips, it's just up out of their hands. That closeout shouldn't bother them at all, or else they're, so I think it's a 2-sided drill, but it's a great way to teach your players maybe to be able to shoot with a closeout coming out at them.
Yep, absolutely.
Instead of coaches saying, you're not open, don't shoot that, that's contested. Well, is it? Like, is the ball out of their hands already by the time the hands come out? I don't know.
Yeah.
The Jamodi podcast is powered by Sideline Interactive. Sideline Interactive is the leading manufacturer for high-quality, innovative scoring tables and LED video display boards that help coaches and schools bring more excitement to fans, create huge fundraising opportunities, and make their jobs easier. Visit sidelineinteractive.com to check out their amazing products.
How do you build confidence in players?
That is a great question. And I like to think hopefully I've gotten better over the years at learning how to do that. I feel like I'm better at doing it with girls than I was with boys. Maybe, I don't know. I've had with guys, and this is going to sound crazy. And somebody asked me, what was one of the biggest differences that you've noticed coaching girls and coaching guys? And I was like, well, with girls, you've got to convince them sometimes, most of the time, that they're as good as they can be. Like you got to convince them how good they are, if that makes sense. A lot of them don't have that confidence built in. You got to build that in them. With guys, sometimes you have to convince them they're not quite as good as they think they are.
You have to pop,
without destroying their confidence completely,
right.
But there is sometimes, I had an issue, I had a guy that was just shooting the ball all the freaking time, and he's shooting 5%, I don't want to destroy his confidence, but at the same time, I don't want him shooting the ball that much. And so I had the conversation with him, look, you don't probably not going to be shooting that shot very much. You're great around the basket. You do a great job here. You're a great rebounder. Focus on those things and quit trying to shoot this 3-point shot so much. And then, try to, add positives and let them know, what they are doing well when you have to critique them. And then when you do tell them something good, say it like you mean it. They have to believe that you believe what you're telling them. And it was really cool at the first of the year. I got a late hire, at McNeil last year, but I was able to do some of the skill work and stuff. And I would come in and have girls coming in, and I'm like, hey, you're good, man. We're going to be really good. And then, I kept telling these girls that as they came in, and I'm like, holy crap, we're going to win district. And they looked at me like I was an idiot. They're like, Coach, we haven't won district in over 13 years. It's been 10 years since we've been in the playoffs. I'm like, yeah, but y'all are freaking good. Like, I really think we're going to win. And I just kept telling them that over and over, just convincing them that we're going to win. And, I don't think that any of them believed me until we beat Georgetown. We beat Georgetown, and I could see that, something changed in them just a little bit. They started thinking, you know what? He might not be full of crap. He might be right. We might be pretty good. And, I just kept telling them. And, before long, they started believing it. And we pulled it off. And, I think that was one of my best years of instilling confidence. I wished, looking back on some of my other years, that I had been as good at doing it as I feel like I was last year. And kind of one of the things that hit me about as hard as something that's hit me before, when we lost out in our in the area round to Johnson, you have your post-game talk with the girls and everything. And one of my girls, popped up. She says, I just want to thank you for believing in us before we believed in ourselves. And golly, you want to talk about like something getting you. I mean, that got me big time.
If it doesn't, there's something wrong.
I've reflected on it. Yeah, I've reflected on that so much.
Yeah.
And it's really made me, reflect back,
Yeah.
on the years coaching my boys and thinking, you know what, I'm a hard coach. And, maybe I could have done a better job, in some of those instances of building confidence in those guys and not always being so hard on them for their mistakes and everything.
Yeah, Coach, I just think that was very Ted Lasso of you. If you're familiar with it, to get your, oh man, you should. Like, I know it's a show about soccer, but really it's a show about how to coach a team.
Yeah.
How to get them to believe. He's got a
Right.
big old yellow sign that says believe on it. And he goes into this, but it's what you did. You saw the vision of what they could be. And then you sold them, and they
Right.
started to slowly believe. But confidence is one of those fascinating things, because and even with the message that you were telling them, it's a fine line, because you still got to tell the truth, and you
Right.
got to address them where they're at. Dina Evans, one of the PGC greats, former director, she one of my favorite lines from her was, no one can take your confidence from you, but you can give it away. Some coaches, I think, try to take it, but they say things that if the player, so confidence comes from their preparation.
Yeah.
Knowing that they put in the time. If they deep down know that they haven't, and a coach comes in with something hard, they're going to just freely give that confidence away, or, that they never even had.
Yeah.
You were able to help them to believe. And then, but I would imagine with the skill development that you do, the joy that you showed, man, they really started to become real confidence to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Coach, the speed round.
Okay.
Short questions. First thing that pops in your head, we're going to get to know you really well.
Okay.
All right. Favorite ice cream flavor?
Chocolate.
How many hours is, go ahead.
Well, it's, chocolate with extra stuff in there, extra, chocolate chips and, not just normal plain
Fudge.
chocolate. We need some
Brownies.
Lots of chocolate, lots of it. Okay. Sorry.
You're good. How many hours of sleep do you need?
7.
Best basketball movie of all time?
Hoosiers.
Nice. It's just, I think I'm at 99% right
It's
there.
got to be Hoosiers, right?
One coach said Finding Forrester, but he said it wasn't really because of the basketball stuff. He liked everything else in it. But
Okay.
that was interesting. For high school, shot clock or no shot clock?
Oof. I'm still at no shot clock. I have a hard time getting people to get the book and just the clock sometimes. I imagine the smaller schools really have trouble with that. And so for that reason alone, I am not for the shot clock, but I like to play a fast-paced game anyways. I don't think the shot clock
It wouldn't bother you at all.
really hurt my style of game at all. I just think that it poses some issues with finding people to run it and do all that.
I heard SPC is trying it this year. And so
Okay.
I'm wondering if, because Tommy Brackle's up here in DFW just hammering UIL on it. He wants it. But I'm wondering if it goes well with SPC, that it might one thing I heard that they're going to do is have basically you have your 3-man official crew. They bring a fourth, and that fourth runs it. So you are paying that other official. I don't know if they'll pay as much as being on the floor, but that could work.
It could, except for we can't find 3 officials right now.
So 2, and then a third. Yeah.
Yeah, we might have to go to 2-man crews,
Man.
and then half of them are going to quit because they don't want to do that. I don't know.
Man,
It's tough.
that's a great reminder for parents and coaches that if we want to continue to have the game that we love, we can't push those guys out.
That's right.
And it's up to us as coaches. And I'm thinking back to a clip of when I just lost my mind last year, and probably that guy thought, why am I doing this? Personally, why he thought that, and then our parents see that and our players see that. And yeah,
Definitely something I could still be a lot better at myself. I need to work on that too.
texting or talking,
Texting.
favorite holiday,
Christmas.
in basketball, who is the GOAT?
Michael Jordan.
Favorite city in the US beside the one you live in?
Vegas.
Ah, good one. Good one. If you could travel back in time, what period would you visit?
Ooh, that's a good one. What period would I visit? Oh my gosh. Could I go back just a tiny bit back in time?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I want to go back to the 80s.
You enjoyed the 80s, huh?
Yeah.
2 more. How many cups of coffee do you drink per day?
10.
Spoken like a true coach right there. How do you drink it?
Straight black.
Wes Watson, if he listens to this, it was the greatest coaching advice he ever gave me in my 5 years with him. I came in with a Starbucks full of cream, sugar, basically a milkshake.
Yeah.
And he said, Matt, what are you doing? I said, I'm just drinking my coffee. He's like, no, if you want to be a head coach, you drink your coffee black. Coach, from that day, I've drank it black. And
Is that right?
yeah, now I'm at Great Fine Faith. So
There you go.
but last one, Godfather, Star Wars, or neither?
Star Wars.
The
One of the
Force
first
is
movies I
strong.
saw when I was a little kid and we saw it at the drive-in movie. And I thought that was
Nice.
just the greatest thing ever.
Yeah. Which out of all 3 trilogies and everything else, what's your favorite one?
Probably still the first one, sentimentally.
Yep.
The first one. And all those first, the first ones that were made to me are better than
4,
the ones
5, and 6.
The ones they made after,
yep.
the effects are better, but the storylines, they didn't build the characters up as much. And so
No.
those
The
early
the script in those early ones was just
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Coach, I really enjoyed this. Again,
Yeah,
I feel like I was a part of the TABC board for a few years. So like I've been in the same room as you before, and I've watched you at the clinic down there, but never really had a lot of interaction. So this was awesome for me.
Well, it was great for me too. I appreciate the opportunity. Like I told you before, I have never done one of these before. So, it was
Well, you did great.
exciting and different. Well, I appreciate it.
Well, it's always fun getting to hear somebody like you that has a lot of experience, but is passionate about what they do and how they coach. And yeah, because I felt like you gave a lot of good nuggets that coaches like me need to hear.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Real quick, if you don't mind, so I think a lot of coaches that listen are in Texas, but we have some from outside, but the ones in Texas, just the value of TABC, being a part of that organization, kind of what it's meant to you. Go ahead.
Well, like I said, just the camp alone, of course, was just invaluable to me. I mean, my career would not be what it is today had I not got involved with the camp when I did. The organization in general is outstanding, I think, for high school basketball players and coaches. The awards that they give out and the things that they do to honor our players are great. There's been some great coaches come through, and it's just I can't imagine my career if I hadn't joined and been a part of all of it. And so I would definitely encourage all the younger coaches to immediately, if they're not members, go become members, and then immediately try to work camp if you can. And I don't know what they say, today, but I know that first year, in the brochure, it said, TABC Camp of Champs. And I had worked a couple of Don Addy camps. And I was like, I think I'm going to try to work that camp. And my head coach at the time, he was like, well, it's kind of a, once they get guys in, they don't let new people in very much. The same old guys just keep working and working. I'm like, well, I'll just throw it in there just in case, just see what happens. And so, I put in for it, and I guess they had a spot accidentally. I don't know what happened, but they invited me to come work. And there were 3 camps going back to back to back. And I was only scheduled for the first one. So I worked the first one, and somebody couldn't show up for the second one. And so they're like, hey, would you like to stay on for the second camp? I was like, yes, sure. So I worked the second one. Somebody couldn't show up for the third one. Hey, you want to stay up for the third camp? Yes, I'll stay. Literally have not missed a camp since then. I've worked every single one. I was the camp director, and I made them promise, because they once you do it, traditionally, the guys have kind of worked their way out and then not done it anymore, just kind of, all right, well, it's time for some young guys to work. But I love working it so much. I only agreed to step into that line if they could promise me that I didn't have to retire afterwards. And so they're like, yeah, you don't have to. That's just what everybody does. So I'm like, all right, because after I'm done, I'm coming back. And so I've like renewed my camp working. So I'm just a regular old camp worker now. And I love it. I love it. The station work, you get to watch other coaches and their styles and learn drills. And, if you're a young coach, you 100% need to jump in and try to work that camp.
It's good. Coach, if anybody has questions on maybe some of the offensive things, cultures things, shooting games that you discussed today, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Probably, I guess email is probably the best. My school email is the one I check more often. It's Kenneth_Mann@roundrockisd.org. You can call me as well, 940-768-8240. More than happy to answer calls. You might need to leave a message, because if I don't know the number, I ain't answering it.
That's
but
fair.
If you leave your name on a message, I promise I will call back. I get too many spam calls all the time.
Oh man. Yeah.
If I don't see a name on there, I don't answer back. And then if you call me and you think I should know your name, still put your name on there, because there's a chance that it's not in my phone. And then I feel like a jerk that I should have had your name in my phone and I didn't.
That's good. Well, Coach, thank you so much for your time.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the Jamodi podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.